Kevin Owens appears.
And we have new tag champs.
Hello, welcome to Wrestle MSX. I'm Michael.
I'm Sally.
And we kick off the European tour with LA Knight and a lot of ole, 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 and yeah. When after roughly 8 minutes, Jimmy Uso heads out. Big Jim's desperate and wants to challenge Knight for his US title. Solo Sikoa then heads out with Jacob and Tama, saying that if anyone deserves a US title shot, it's Jacob Fatu. Solo then slipped over a few of his lines, with Jimmy saying that Solo was a failure for losing the Ulafala. Bloodline 2.0 then surround the ring, with Jimmy suffering a DDT from Tama, while Solo and Jacob attack Knight. Not for long though, as Braun Strowman heads out to even the numbers, with Jimmy, Knight and Braun soon gaining control and clearing the heels out. Nick Aldis heads out.
Wonder what he's going to say.
Well, he makes a 6-man tag, which is right now.
Back from the break and we're already underway. Sikoa, Fatu, Tonga against Uso, Knight and Strowman. Jimmy started well against Solo until Solo pulled out a spilling solo on his brother, slowing him down. The heels then isolate Jimmy by making quick tags and keeping him away from his corner. Of course, Jimmy gets away, bringing in the Megastar. Knight hits a neckbreaker, DDT and elbow from the middle rope, but gets pushed away when going for BFT. Uso takes Knight out with his running spinning elbow when all of a sudden Solo's beating on Knight in the corner.
Break?
Yep. Knight dodges a hip attack and then brings in Strowman, who clears house, leaves the ring and hits everyone with his runaway train.
Knight then takes out Solo through the ropes. Jimmy dives out at Fatu and Tama, who is the legal man, gets running power slammed by Braun and then picked up the loss for his team. After the match, Solo attacks Strowman, with Knight pulling Sikoa out the ring and the two then fighting off into the crowd. Fatu then superkicks Jimmy before entering the ring and landing 3 moonsaults on Strowman. As Fatu heads up the rampway, he decides he isn't done, so heads back down to ringside to send Braun through the timekeeper's barrier. So Strowman Fatu is building nicely for a Street Fighter
one of your
Mania.
20 WrestleMania matches.
Yes.
We have a sit-down interview next with Kathy Kelly and Jade Cargill. Jade's ready to go and glimpsed that it was Naomi before she passed out when she was attacked. Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez then walk by as the interview is being conducted in the arena before the show. Liv and Jade have a little back and forth, mainly talking over one another, which half of the time made no sense. What we did get out of it was a match next week between Liv and Jade, I think. The interview then ended.
Next up, B-Fab, speaking a little Spanish to the camera before she heads out to face Charlotte Flair, who's gone full Mania outfit. We see 3 of these before Fab fights back with a suplex and big boot, covering for 2. Flair gets in her own super kick, then hits natural selection before locking in the figure 8. Fab taps, with Flair winning the match, but not releasing the move, causing Tiffany Stratton to head out. The 2 fight around the ring with security all being sacked in the morning because they couldn't keep these 2 apart. Stratton hits a swanton from the top rope to the outside before finally being parted.
We get a vignette from Drew McIntyre next, who's gunning for Priest, after, among other things, throwing Drew out at this year's Royal Rumble and then eliminating him from the Elimination Chamber this March.
Miz TV time now, but before we can begin, we get interrupted by Flair and Stratton still going at it, fighting on the entranceway, with Stratton hitting another swanton, but this time from the top of the Videotron. Now, back to the Miz, who invites out Cody Rhodes. Rhodes finally gets to the ring, with the Miz then asking for Cody's music to be cut. Rhodes doesn't take too kindly to this, and hits Miz with a crossroads. He then picks up the mic and tells Cena he'll be at Raw along with Cena, which I think we kind of already knew.
Yeah.
They'd already said that
it was
going to be
kind of announced that they'll be there, yeah.
So no spoilers there.
We then see Shinsuke speaking with Nick Aldis from earlier, and Shinsuke wants a rematch. Damian Priest then interrupts, looking for, presumably, Drew McIntyre. Aldis says he's gone, with Shinsuke then saying something in Japanese to Priest. Priest says he doesn't understand, with him saying something in Spanish to Shinsuke. The bottom line is that they have a match next. Just before their match, we see a vignette for, I'm assuming, Rey Fenix.
Nothing of note in the opening portion of the match. Priest sends Nakamura out the ring before we hit a break, with Shinsuke then performing his sliding German suplex and covering for 2 as we come back. Priest then kicks out and pushes Shinsuke down to the mat, finishing with a Falcon Arrow and looking for South of Heaven. Shinsuke, though, rolls out the ring. Priest follows, sending Shinsuke onto the announcer's desk before heading back into the ring. A huge clothesline takes out Shinsuke, with Priest then looking for South of Heaven. As he's waiting for Shinsuke to rise, though, Drew McIntyre appears at the announcer's desk, distracting him. Come on, Drew.
The distraction allows Shinsuke to roll up Priest for a 2 count before going for Kinshasa. Nakamura gets caught by Priest, finally suffering a South of Heaven. But after it's delivered, McIntyre jumps Priest and attacks him. The ref calls for the bell and ends the match, with Drew gouging Priest's eyes. With Priest down, Shinsuke hits him with a Kinshasa and then leaves the ring. Drew then proceeds to toss Priest around the ringside before knocking him down with the ring steps and leaving himself. Priest climbs back into the ring, but should have stayed down as McIntyre sees this, heads back towards the ring, gets in and delivers a Claymore to the already dazed Priest. I hope this isn't a WrestleMania match. People were against it, but it seems WWE are ploughing on with it.
Yeah, I mean, they showed some build-up from last year's Money in the Bank and Priest winning, McIntyre winning the Money in the Bank and cashing in and failing, and he's blaming Priest for everything. As I say, he's the one that threw Drew out at the Royal Rumble. He's the one that pinned him in the Elimination Chamber. So there's been a big story, a big build to this. So it doesn't matter how much backlash I think there is from people saying they don't want Priest, McIntyre. I think WWE, they've put too much work into it, so I think that's going to happen, unfortunately. Backstage, we have Kathy Kelly, and she's with DIY. She asks what makes them sure they're going to walk out as tag champs after tonight's match. Tommaso answers with a question, asking why is SmackDown the greatest tag division in wrestling. He says because of them. Anyway, after they ramble on, Motor City enter the picture. They say when DIY are done with the Street Profits, there's unfinished business between them. Well, if they win, aren't they going to have to deal with Pretty Deadly first?
I'd have thought so.
So, Motor City, back of the queue.
Yeah. Green and her Secret Service cut a promo next, with Green saying she's hired a new agent, Alba Fire. Zelina Vega then rocks up looking for a title shot, but Piper Niven steps in saying you've got to go through us before you get to her. Vega then makes herself a match against Niven for next week.
I'll have a match with you, okay, no problem. Out next, Randy Orton. He's against Carmelo Hayes. Nothing much happens. Orton back body drops Mello onto the announcer's desk, as is customary with Orton matches, before we head back into the ring and see a wonderful power slam from Orton after catching Hayes from a springboard. A draping DDT doesn't finish Hayes as he hits a springboard DDT and covers for 2. Hayes goes up top, with Orton joining him and hitting a superplex before looking for an RKO. Hayes gets in a first 48, but Orton still lands an RKO before covering and pinning him. After the match, Orton goes to shake Carmelo's hand, but Mello pushes him away. So Orton hits him with another RKO, then lines up a punt. Hayes is saved and pulled out of the ring by Kevin Owens, with Orton then leaving the ring and attacking KO. Owens manages to fight Orton off and escape through the crowd. So that's to be continued.
Definitely. Backstage, we see Jacob Fatu calling out Braun Strowman for a match next week. See,
they don't need the cowardice, do they?
We see this weird vignette of Smoke and a number 4, and then hear from Gunther in the ring.
Fantastic Four coming soon.
Gunther riles up the crowd by saying he wished they were in Madrid, which, if you weren't aware, are Barcelona's great footballing rivals, before slating Jey Uso and then calling out the local hero, Axiom from NXT, for a match.
Axiom has his moments and takes Gunther down with a huge drop kick from the top rope and knee to the face, but Gunther responds with a drop kick of his own and powerbomb into cover. Axiom kicks out on 2, which surprised me. I thought it'd have been done. We end up on the top rope with Gunther looking for a powerbomb, which Axiom reverses into a hurricanrana and then follows up with a golden ratio kick, basically a super kick to those that don't follow NXT, and then covers for 2. Powerbomb, clothesline, powerbomb, get the job done for Gunther, as he then covers for the victory. After the match, Gunther locks in the sleeper, with referees managing to talk him down and release the hold.
We hear from Paul Heyman next. He doesn't really say much. He mentions WWE 2K25 about 10,000 times before saying Reigns will be live next week on SmackDown.
There's pointless in being there because he just like, oh yeah, 2K25. And then next week, oh, 2K25. We might have 2K25 Roman Reigns, 2K25. Okay, Paul, we get it. As the Street Profits head out for their tag title match against DIY, they stopped Bel Legado del Fantasma. Santos says they're there to wish them luck and hope they win because when they do, they're going to take the titles off them.
Backstage, we see Gunther speaking with Jimmy, and he wants him to speak to his brother Jay and stop him from wanting to take him on. Jimmy says Jay is going to take the title away from you, then yeets. Gunther says he's tried and then walks off.
I mean, imagine if Jimmy was like, look, Jay, just don't take him on, and Jay's like, okay, yeah, like just completely
just done.
Yeah, well that card's out the window. Well, that match rather ridiculous. Anyway, last match of the night, DIY defending their tag titles against the Street Profits. Each team has its moments to begin with Dawkins taking control of Tommaso and covering for 2. Ford tags in with the Profits double teaming Ciampa and covering for another 2, while Pretty Deadly watch on from the back. Ciampa gets his knees up to a Ford 450 splash, then tags in Gargano with DIY then hitting Ford with the Shatter Machine. Dawkins breaks the follow-up cover on 2. Dawkins then sends Ciampa over the timekeeper's barrier, gets back in the ring and readies Gargano for a blockbuster with Ford. Ciampa comes back and disrupts it, but is soon dealt with by a flying Ford, who then climbs back to the top turnbuckle and hits the blockbuster. Ford covers, Ciampa saves on 2.
It's Dawkins' time to fly now as he swantons Gargano, but misses as Gargano rolls out of the way. In comes Ciampa after being tagged, with DIY pulling off a super kick fairy tale ending and then covering for 2. DIY exchange tags, making Johnny the legal man, and then go for a meet in the middle. Dawkins ducks, with Johnny ending up hitting Ciampa instead. Dawkins takes advantage of a concerned Gargano by slamming him and then tagging in Ford, who proceeds to hit a frog splash and then cover for the 1, 2, 3. The Street Profits become the new tag team champions, with SmackDown going off the air as the new champs celebrate.
New champs then.
Nice.
I did find this SmackDown a bit of a struggle to watch. I don't know why. I just found it a bit boring. I don't know.
There's not too much happening. It's just getting to the next.
Yeah, and obviously, and everybody's just making matches. Oh, I'm going to call you out. And Liv Jade Cargill is next week. That was confirmed later on. And Vega against Piper Niven. It's like, I mean, I sometimes wonder if they're saving the stars because they might get injured, so they don't want to put the big ones out all the time. But
this is the European tour, so you thought they might have, but
I don't know. I just find it a little bit boring. Anyway, any thoughts you'd like to share, then please feel free to leave them in the comments section below. Don't forget to go check out our musings video with thoughts and opinions on the last week of WWE. The new one drops every Wednesday. Thank you again for watching.
And we'll see you Tuesday for Raw.